Hold on. But the entire scene has shifted diagonally. I gotta fix that real quick. But yeah, that's exactly what I was talking about, the random crashing. I don't know if you what did it sound like for you guys?
Well,
You just
you
went
kind of
quiet.
just, yeah, you went quiet. I thought I was the one that crashed at first because no one was saying anything.
No. Oh, that's it's really wait, no, that's the thumbnail. Okay, ignore that. Hold on. Set. It's the set. I know it's here. We almost got through the intro. Give me 1 second. Bear with me, everyone. Front? Yeah, there we go. All right, everything's back to normal. Where was I? I believe I'm gonna have to open all those tabs again, but whatever. Um, let's take it from here. I'm your co-parent BHultra.
And I am your co-parent, Switchy.
And I am your Funkle Dan.
We have been gone for several weeks over the extended holiday season. At the same time, the same season where Nintendo charted a disappointing holiday season for sales of the Nintendo Switch 2. And now, according to men much smarter than me when it comes to numbers, in Japan, they have suffered a 33% price drop, or in their stock, not the price. Oh, could you imagine? So, gentlemen, why is the Nintendo Switch 2 underperforming?
Well, I think
I think it's
big
prices.
thing- I think prices play a big role, but I also just think there wasn't like a holiday seller this year. I just don't think there was that like holiday seller, that one that really like you needed to get.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to remember back to uh 2017, the year the Switch launched, and Odyssey came out in October or November.
October.
All right, so it was around the time of the holiday season. So like that made sense. And there wasn't really like that Odyssey game for the Switch 2. Like I love Kirby Air Riders. Metroid Prime 4 is a good game. Those aren't really system sellers. Those aren't like the games they're going to go out and buy the system for, you
And
know?
Metroid Prime
those
4
games
isn't
are
even
for us.
like an exclusively a Switch 2 title.
Exactly. Exactly. And then
That's
the
a good
next
point
year,
too.
Smash Ultimate came out on the Switch 1, and that was another system seller. So there just wasn't a system seller this time around. I think everyone who wanted to Switch 2 got a Switch 2 at this point. And I'm not saying that they're going to like completely tank now. I just think that like it's going to slow down. Like obviously it's going to slow down because they haven't fully transitioned yet to what I believe to be the
Whoa,
system
literally-
seller like exclusive. And I'm not saying like Donkey Kong isn't a great game, but I think like Mario has just more mainstream appeal than Donkey Kong, and I just don't think that can be argued.
I think it's weirdly enough, I think part of the reason why it hasn't sold well, in my opinion, if we're making educated guesses here, is because, and I would never accuse Nintendo of being very pro-consumer when it comes to their decisions, but I think the reason the Switch sold so well is because it sort of had to hit the ground running, and it couldn't use the same infrastructure as the Wii U. Granted, a lot of the early Switch releases were like deluxe editions of Wii U games, and I guess we're seeing that parroted or mirrored with these Switch 2 editions. But I think that maybe because this isn't a bombastic like step, a fresh new thing from Nintendo, it is legitimately, for better or for worse, just a more powerful Switch. It is the Switch 2 that, and we've been over this before, that I think they view Switch 2 editions as like bigger deals than they are. Where I guess like the actual day launch, it was in early June, it came with Mario Kart World and Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour, and then also GameCube for Nintendo Switch Online, and then the Switch 2 editions of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And for the most part, I think, like, I really love Air Riders and Bonanza. I think personally that, like, they are worth buying a console for. It's because I really like those series already. But it seems like the games that ended up being the biggest, or maybe having a moment there, or maybe just like running out of goodwill, that none of them are exclusive like Switch 2 experiences per se. But I do think that the price is a big point of that. But is it still like, I'm not super well versed in this, is it still like expensive in Japan, or is that just like a tariff thing here?
Oh,
I
I don't
forget.
know.
Like, is Mario Kart the equivalent of $80 there as well?
I think it's a little bit different. Well, I mean, to be fair, this is news that I was reading, like back in when the Switch 2 was first coming out. I know that the Japanese yen is very weak right now, which in some ways is good, but in some ways is bad.
Yeah.
So I think in general, like the global economy is just not as good as it's been, in the past. I don't know how big of an effect that has. I think it probably does,
Yeah.
especially because at least over here, I mean, people are very unhappy with how much the Switch costs, and I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo kind of tries to alleviate that by making a lot of these new games Switch to, so I mean, like compatible with the Switch. I mean, Metroid, I think Metroid was probably both Switch and Switch 2 because they originally envisioned it as a Switch game, and it probably, I don't know, it would have felt bad to
They
make
sort
it
of
a
promised that they
Switch
would
2
release
game
it on
only.
the Switch. And then they have to stick to that.
Kind of like Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
the Wii U game.
I think that might kind of influence some of their decision making. I was surprised that Tomodachi Life was available on the Switch. Maybe it's because I think that's a big part of the reason they do that is to kind of maintain favor with customers, because not a lot of people can get the Switch 2 yet, or it's just not grabbing people as much as it could yet.
Right. Although I wouldn't be surprised, on the topic of Tomodachi Life, I wouldn't be surprised if they announce later on, before it launches, that there's going to be a quote Switch 2 version of that as well, with some stuff that is maybe it runs a little better, maybe there's a mouse option. I don't know. I could see that.
I wouldn't be
happening,
surprised if
even
there's
it is-
some sort of mouse thing you can do.
Do you think that would be released after the fact, or do you think it would be like Metroid and ZA, where it's the same day that they have the Switch?
I think the same
Because
day.
weirdly
I think
enough,
same day.
obviously we don't have release dates for that in Rhythm Heaven anyway, so we already don't know a lot of them. But I think it's a weird omission that they haven't said anything about Switch 2 editions for either of those, really. I mean, they haven't said anything
Well,
more
I
about Rhythm Heaven at all.
Rhythm Heaven probably might just be the same on Switch 2 as it is on Switch. Maybe it just would run a little better, like a Mario Odyssey type deal, where it just looks better. I can't, because it just seems weird to have mini games that would be exclusive to the Switch 2 version, using the mouse or something. Rhythm Heaven doesn't seem like the kind of game that needs.
I feel like it'd be a
enhancement of the
camera
Switch 2.
thing. They'd add camera functionality where you can physically move your arms around or something.
Maybe.
That seems like the
I
2000s
definitely see it
style
more-
bullshit we can need.
I definitely just see it more for Tomodachi Life. That game just screams Switch 2 version.
Mic features and Tomodachi's. I want to talk directly to them. It would be like Seaman. But I feel like more and more, especially, and I can get into it because I did play. We had a sizable gap between the last episode and now. Obviously, that was late December, so I've been going over stuff that either was at the tail end of 2025 and early 2026. And ultimately, that's what this episode is for, is to wrap up 25 and usher in 26. But it feels like, for the most part, with Switch 2 editions, there have been, I guess, the Mario Party one, even though that was the one that I didn't get to play at all, really, because of the weird structuring of it.
Still not over that one.
That one is the one that's most selling you an additional feature, like a peripheral, where it feels like all the other Switch 2 editions, maybe aside from Forgotten Land, which is honestly just additional DLC, is that they want to release these performance upgrades. They want them to run, and obviously they want to resell them on the Switch 2. The thing about the Switch 2 editions is it is the same market they were doing from Wii U to Switch. We'll re-release these games for the next console. But the difference is people who were buying Hyrule Warriors or Mario Kart 8 or Pokken Deluxe on the Switch year 1 or year 2 are, and I'm sure there were some people double dipping, I was one of them, but they weren't people who already had the games on Wii U and they're like, oh, I want to play the new stuff. It was people who didn't own the games or own a Wii U that the Switch immediately, almost immediately outsold the Wii U just within its first year. So they were releasing these games. They're like, oh man, we just worked on these games. Let's just re-release them at a full price and add a little bit of content. But I feel like that doesn't really work for the Switch 2 because the Switch one sold so well. So you're not selling it to new customers. Like maybe there's a small percentage of people who like haven't gotten Animal Crossing for the Switch and they're like, "Oh, I'll hop in with the Switch 2 version." But I imagine that percentage is very, very slim.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
another thing is just that, modern technology. I think this is also a modern thing. A lot of video games can run both on the Switch and Switch 2. I mean, we already have seen like a lot of Switch games, they're kind of capped at 30 FPS. And what their Switch 2 editions just do is just, double the FPS. And I think like nowadays games are just a little bit easier to tweak for performance's sake. That I think it's just common practice in the gaming industry in general to just do both, support both. And I think in some ways that's kind of reflecting in the Switch 2 sales compared to the Switch 1 sales. Although you could argue like the Wii U kind of affected that one, like the Switch Air. I think this was already kind of in practice when the Switch came out, but I think also like the Wii U just sold so poorly that it didn't make as much of an effect. So nowadays, a big part of the debate or like the consumer dilemma is, do I really need a Switch 2 yet?
Because like, I mean, we're not here to go to bat for Nintendo, nor are we like dooming about like, oh man, it's over. Because I do think it is an entirely different vibe from what we're comparing it as to like the Wii U era. Is that for one, they have their tendrils makes it seem far more negative. They're deeply rooted in other forms of entertainment now that if all of a sudden, like, all of the new Nintendo games sold terribly, they still have a lucrative theme park and now, like, entertainment wing that in the Wii U era, it kind of seemed like they were at risk of just going out of business altogether. And I truly don't think that's ever going to happen now. And two, it's not exclusively them, I would say. Like, if the biggest issues are hardware plateauing in comparison to something like a computer, or just like prices hiking up and being simply too much for people, I feel like that is an issue that is pervasive throughout just video games as a whole right now, the entire market. And if numbers, conventional wisdom, if we're following patterns, as I often like to do, then I think we should be gearing up for like a new Xbox and or PlayStation in 2027. And I have no clue if that even happens, how that's going to go, because it's still like, even though it's going to be 7 years, because these, whatever generation we're in launched in 2020, it doesn't feel like it. They still all feel very bare bones. Like for the average person,
It's
like an
crazy
Xbox
how,
Series
like-
X, a PlayStation 5, a Switch 2, they're not like, it's a tough sell. There's a handful of games that are really fantastic games, but not enough where it's like, oh, this library is incredible. Granted, the idea I hope with a Nintendo Switch is that as they slowly drip feed all of their older Nintendo games, and eventually they have to keep adding more and more consoles or upgrades to their Switch Online infrastructure, that eventually the Switch 2 will just be the perfect console for all of the games they've ever made. But that's like an eventuality. That's just like, oh, eventually we'll get to that down the line. We still haven't had we've got a decent amount of Nintendo 64 games, but there's still a substantial amount that we're missing.
Yeah, they're weirdly. I've never liked how kind of how much they hog old games. You know what I mean?
I mean, it is a good
Yeah, I
deal, like
mean-
for, was it 60 a year or 80 a year, depending on like the family thing or the expansion pass. Access to all the games that you have, I think, is worth it. But that's the argument. I guess this is a perfect transition into what I experienced with the Animal Crossing New Horizons Switch 2 edition, is that the argument really depends on how tech savvy you are or what you're willing to do. Because, like, in an argument of these retro games, they're never going to be a better deal than, like, oh, you could just emulate them off your computer, which is totally fine. Like, that's completely within your right to do. And honestly, if you want to do it and you can't afford Nintendo Switch Online, nor do you want to buy it, that's fine. It's a fantasy crime. Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But I feel like that shouldn't really come into argument when we're saying, like, what the company itself should do. Like, oh, they need to compete with online emulators. It's like, well, like, just by releasing all of them at once, it's never going to be the same thing if their goal is to make even a little bit of profit or to make it seem like a good deal. But to the average, like, I don't know, normal gamer, even though like most people are pretty tech savvy nowadays, at least when it comes to like running emulators on their Android, there's really not an argument there because anyone can do it. And similarly, I can get my footage of me playing the Animal Crossing New Horizons Nintendo Switch 2 edition. The big update, I mean, it also came with like a graphical update, and they showed it off in the direct. They're like, oh, before it was 720p and now it's 1080p, and it zoomed in on like the character's face. And when I was playing this on my TV. It's not like I was holding it in front of my face or on a small screen. It is such a negligible difference. Like, for stuff like that, with Animal Crossing specifically, that is a non-issue. I've never been playing New Horizons and thought like, man, I wish this ran at 60 frames, which I don't think it even does. I think it still runs at 30. But again,
it's still 30.
Yeah, again, you can't even notice. So from a feature standpoint, they also, I think, bumped up that you could have 8 people on your island. They bumped it up to 12, which I don't think I even know 11 other people with Animal Crossing New Horizons, much less all that are available at the same time. So I didn't get to test that out. But honestly, as far as like multiplayer goes for Animal Crossing, and I know why they did it is because people feel very specific about the layouts of their... A cat just laid on my spacebar and paused the video. They feel very specific about the layout of their town, and they don't want anyone to mess with it. But I always was disappointed by the online features of Animal Crossing New Horizons, that if someone's visiting your island like a friend, not only can they not move anything, but you can't move anything. So all you can do is show them around and talk to villagers, which if you give someone your dream code, they could just do that anyway. So for me,
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a selling point per se, but the new feature they added with the Switch 2 edition is there is now a giant hotel on the left side of the island. And sort of like the Happy Home Designer games, you are tasked with... they give you a theme, and they give you access to every item in the game, which I've wanted for so long. Like, I've wanted... When it comes to, like, a creation suite like this, like in Minecraft or The Sims, there are game modes where you... For Animal Crossing New Horizons, I don't know if it's true for any Animal Crossing game, that it was really hard to kind of plan my island ahead because I didn't even know all the pieces I was working with. But here you have access to everything. And I was having a whole lot of fun with this new hotel feature, but then I decorated like 2 or 3 hotels, and then I went back to go do another one, and they said like, oh, there's no more rooms. Come back tomorrow and there'll be more rooms. So I think you can only do like 2 or 3 a day. Maybe it scales upwards, but it didn't for me. It was only ever like 2 or 3. And similar to the emulation thing, right? Like bending the rules. When we say that, we all know that you can just jump ahead in Animal Crossing anyway. Like, there are exploits to move the timer forward. It's not that hard. A child could figure that out. But if that is the case, why not just make it so that you can customize as many hotel rooms as you want? It's from like a grinding standpoint that you get specific tickets that you can exchange for new items, but you could just buy the new items with bells anyway. So what I'm getting at is that I did very little of this new hotel because I only had... I mean, it came out on Thursday, so I did the amount that I was allotted. And everything other than that is more or less the same. Sometimes other villagers or other islanders, residents, will show up to the hotel, but maybe I wasn't looking hard enough, but I didn't see them again. So I think it's more like... It's less of like, oh, they live at the hotel now, so you have additional campers on your island. I think it's more that it's sort of like when you get a tent set up and somebody's visiting for a little bit.
Yeah, it's more like that, I think.
Yeah. So, have either of you tried the Switch 2 edition of Animal Crossing New Horizons?
I haven't been able to. I've been out of town. Mm-hmm. But I plan to. I plan to play it.
Did we talk about New Horizons that much? Because like that had its entire like wave throughout 2020.
Oh yeah.
Well, that came.
No,
out
I was like a butthurt
time.
fan about it.
You could not have like chosen a better time for that to come out. I have not played the Switch 2 or 3.0 version yet because when I got my OLED, I never transferred my island over, and I lost my original Switch, and I just did not feel like doing the tutorial again. I couldn't do it again. I couldn't. That's one of the worst tutorials.
I think
It's so slow.
because of the way I play games that's predominantly on stream, that I will do it in like 3 hour shifts. I just don't think that Animal Crossing, although there's always like a lot to do and it is fun, it's not really built for something like that. It is very much like a pick up and play game. And I think that this hotel is emblematic of that. It's like, oh, it's something it's like, it's the most mobile game that a Switch game could be, and I guess the Switch is mobile in and of itself, but it's like Pokemon Go or like a gacha game. Maybe that's too negative for a game like this, that you just maybe for like 30 minutes load it up every day, and then you're like, okay, I did everything, I'll come back tomorrow. It's not one, and I imagine like maybe I don't know if this is just New Horizons, but I haven't played a lot of other Animal Crossing games substantially. I wouldn't know, but I think that just is the name of the game, that you pick it up a little bit each day.
Yeah, I mean, it goes down to the fact that there's only so much you can do every day. I mean, that's kind of similar to how gacha games are, in which you get your daily like unwrap or unbox or whatever, or especially if you're playing the free version. In fact, I remember like when Animal Crossing New Horizons first came out, one of the big things that limited you from doing what you want was actually the availability of like the daily resources you get. Like you can only get so much stone in a day. I actually remember my friends and we would like go to each other's islands and steal each other's rocks basically so we could craft shit. Because we didn't want to time travel or whatever, but we also still kind of wanted to play within the rules of the game and kind of move forward.
Yeah.
I mean, really, you can't. I don't feel like you can really stream Animal Crossing, at least not for extended periods of time, unless you're like spending a day like pimping out your island, frankly.
Well, like I always stream, because throughout 24 leading into 25, ahead of the release of the Switch 2 and also us starting the show, this is the earliest we've ever been, because we started it in late March, I think. So we're going to catch up with ourselves eventually. That's crazy to think about. That Thursday was always like the Switch day, and I would play a different Switch game leading up to the release of the Switch 2. And then after that, Thursday was just like the Switch 2 day. And after the launch of the console, but before Bonanza came out, every week I would just like, okay, I only have like 6 games that are exclusive to the Switch 2. I'll just play each of these for like 30 minutes each stream. But now that we've had substantial releases and a little bit more, I do think that all of the games, maybe sans Metroid Prime 4, but I kind of have no desire to go back to that anyway, have that like structural pickup and playability where there are 8 games, including Animal Crossing, that like next week, every Thursday moving forward ahead of Mario Tennis, I think I'm just going to play all of them. Like, oh, I'll do a race in Mario Kart or a P-Switch and then a Bonandium Gem in Bonanza and then do one of the missions in Kirby Air Riders, doing all of those slowly over time. Because, I mean, just from a personal standpoint, I was stressed out and still am, honestly, but I feel like I'm past it now, past that wave, where as soon as I got an internet platform, I was like, okay, I know that these things don't last, so I need to make the most of it. I need to optimize my time right now and do everything now until like it goes up in smoke or whatever. So every game I started, I was like, I need to beat this. I need to 100% this immediately. And that's because like I started streaming in 2020, so it was the tail end, well, I guess the second half of the original Switch anyway. But now that I'm probably in this for the long haul, 7 or 8 years of the Switch 2, I'm like, well, I have maybe 7 years, maybe like 6 more years to 100% Kirby Air Riders. I kind of want it to last me the entire lifespan of the Switch 2, so let me pace myself a little bit instead of immediately consuming everything. And I think there's a lot of games on the Switch 2 that are good for that. But as far as major releases go, I actually don't know if it was still on a Thursday, if we're sticking to that Thursday theory. We could take 2 paths here. We could either talk about, I mean, we're going to do both, but it's just a matter of which one we do right now. We could discuss the newest game added to GameCube for Nintendo Switch Online, or we could discuss what we currently know about Nintendo's 2026 moving forward.
Let's talk about Path of Radiance.
All right, let's jump into Path of Radiance.
Did we not talk about Wario Did we miss the Wario discussion?
Oh, was Wario World after we already went off
One
the
was
air?
Wario World. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember, and that's really bothering
I feel
me.
like it was before the Game Awards, wasn't it? I could be wrong. How was
I'm
your
gonna look
guys'
it up.
holiday
When they
break,
posted
by
the
the way?
trailer,
What'd
hold
you
on.
guys do while we were gone? You too.
Work.
Dude, I
and-
actually Oh, you go first.
I
was
think he
just gonna
made
say
his
work and
point.
Study, basically, that's all I did.
Yeah.
Just same stuff. I actually have been playing some more games lately, so I've actually played like like 3 Metroid games, and not one of them were freaking Prime 4. I'm planning to play Prime 4 next.
Were they other
Um,
Prime games?
No. So then they were some of the old school ones. I played Metroid for the NES, the Game Boy edition of Metroid, Return to Samus.
Return to
I
Dreamland.
played the 3DS version too, but I decided to play it on the Game Boy. I played Metroid Fusion as well. I don't know, just getting
I
in the
do
mood.
love that one.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a
I
good
mean,
one.
I've actually been playing some games too. I've been trying to go through my backlog. I finally started playing Pizza Tower. Like, I finally
Oh.
got into that.
It's kind of like Wario.
It's good. I like it. There's one level that pisses me off, and it made me rage quit, and I'll go back to it later. I don't want to.
There were a lot of levels that pissed me off. We had like a bit on the channel because there were obviously, like, if you're playing a game, you just type in the Twitch category, and sometimes people will just search by that category, and the game, like, how fast the game moves, and Twitch has maybe like a 5 second delay, which doesn't seem like a lot, but there would be people in the chat like, oh, you got to find this, and the secrets are like very well hidden. They're like, oh, you need to go here. Oh, but they wouldn't say like, oh, go to this specific landmark. They would say like, okay, now jump now, or like go down now. And it's like, I don't know if you know how
That would
fast
drive me
this game
crazy.
moves. That was 5 seconds ago. I'm like 2 rooms away now.
It is like a very like reaction-based game,
Yeah.
and for the most part, it's fine. But there's one level where you're timed from the very beginning, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, you're losing me, and I don't want to do this right now. But then I started playing this new game that came out called Big Hops. It's a very fun 3D platformer. It's a little buggy right now, and I'm in the dev server where they're talking
sweet.
about it. But it's a really fun 3D platformer. The movement's a lot of fun. The voice acting is very good. They got some good voice actors in there. They got Steve Bloom in there.
Oh shit.
They got a ton of it's actually pretty high quality. I would say like wait like a little bit just for a few more patches to come out before going into it, but like it's like a good 10 to 20 hour game, honestly. Like a very fun 3D platformer.
I mean, that's great as far as games go. I don't know if I have been playing anything that isn't or outside of stream. I think every time I get really into a game when I'm streaming it, I think like, man, I really just should be playing this off stream. Like, I'm sort of kneecapping myself by only exclusively playing it on stream. So then I made like a second account, or I had a second account because I already had like 7 Switch accounts that I could progress at my own rate. But then I remembered that the reason I started streaming is just because like I'm writing or editing or filming all the time. So like I don't have the free time to play it anyway. And it's really funny in comparison the way I was moving last year when it came to Bonanza and Pokemon ZA, that I'm like, I need to do this now. I don't want to be spoiled on any of the new megas or any of the stuff like that. Whereas like I think I played the ZA DLC once or twice, maybe like over 4 hours in total on top of just like playing the actual game. And I think this is emblematic of the DLC itself. Not only do I not care,
But like I was like, dude, I'm not gonna play this shit. So I just spoiled
I mean,
it.
I got it for like because I got a $10 discount code from Best Buy, and
Nice.
I never touched it. I'm just like, you know what? I could touch it, but also Kirby Air Riders. So,
I
you know.
know. But that's like another example. Like ZA and Bonanza and Air Riders, like, they're kind of perfect to play in tandem because you could just like pick them up and just like, oh, I'll do a quest in ZA or a mission in Air Riders, and just doing all of those in tandem. And I like the idea of there being sort of like a Switch 2 rotation, because prior to Bonanza, my rotation was like Mario Kart and Welcome Tour, and then it was Fast Fusion and like Survival Kids and Bravely Default HD Remaster. What's interesting is that I set myself up and I'm like, I'm going to play all the Switch 2 exclusives. And late last year, I was like, oh, that may have been a mistake. Like, I think I'm going to regret this. And eventually, I probably will regret it. But honestly, since then, you would think that there'd be a lot more. Slop is sort of a deplorative, but just like non-Nintendo games that would be on the Switch too. But aside from the launch itself and then eventually Duskbloods later this year, maybe, as far as exclusives go, it is just Nintendo. Like, since Metroid Prime 4 is released, which isn't even a Switch 2 exclusive. So let's say since Kirby Air Riders released, there hasn't been a new Switch 2 game other than this Animal Crossing Switch 2 edition anyway. Whereas on the Switch, like, as soon as it came out, there was just a bunch of bullshit on the eShop.
Yeah.
But I guess a lot of these games, if I'm categorizing them as exclusives, I imagine most of them are on other platforms, whether it be, like, the App Store or Steam. But as far as, like, the reason we were gone for the period we were is after the holiday season, the week after was Super MagFest 2026. And I made a video about it. I've gone to MagFest every year since I was like 12 or 13 or something. It's always a big laugh, a big fun. I wasn't there. Well, there wasn't one in January of 2021. One, because there was a deadly pandemic going around. And two, I mean, this isn't why it was shut down, but could you imagine being in DC in January? Because it was like the same week it would have been. And you would have to explain to, like, the guards why you were in DC. It's like, I promise I'm just here for a gaming convention. It's been 5 years. Well, there have been moments like that, because it's just like a normal hotel. There was one year where there was a couple that was getting married there. Like, they were having their wedding there. And at first you would think, like, oh, that's sweet. Like, they really love the convention. But I don't think they knew about the convention. So there was people in, like, tuxes and dresses, but then there was also, you know, people in cosplay and, like, furries walking around them. And they just looked so
sure they weren't
lost.
there for the Minions movie?
Oh, I think that was way after anyway, if that was the second Minions movie. I was thinking about this. Okay, so part of MagFest, we got to do our tournaments that now we've been doing for 4 years, that I like the idea of doing a different event at different conventions. Perhaps we should talk about this off stream or just get ideas going, because last year I didn't really go to anything other than MagFest. One, due to finances, and two, an airplane exploded in the sky and I got really anxious about it. Sorry, there's a cat in front of me. But I do want to kind of try all of the events and conventions that I went to in 24. So I think the three of us, we should plot something for MomoCon this year sometime soon, because that's like the next one that's coming up in May, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's PAX, but that doesn't really count for us.
Nah, we can't pull anything off there.
We can't pull PAX, no.
It was in 2024 that we were all there, and we just left the convention to go see the Garfield movie. And I think that the week of MomoCon this year, let me see, because I have the movies listed. I believe it is, it's the release of The Mandalorian and Grogu in theaters. Something to think about. If we just want to abandon and see Grogu on the big screen. I've said this in Star Wars videos, and I'm sure I'll talk about it more towards May when I'm working on another Star Wars video, that it's crazy that there's going to be a new Star Wars film in theaters the first time since 2019, and I just feel nothing. Just absolute apathy. Yeah. Because I love Star Wars, but it doesn't feel like a real movie. It feels like a Disney Plus special.
Yeah. I can't be excited anymore. I don't know. You know, I'm just exhausted. Mm-hmm. I'm just exhausted.
There's a little bit of an overabundance. Maybe it's not. Well, I guess that's sort of it. I just think that the success of the first season of The Mandalorian really shaped Disney's practices throughout the 20s, where that was like the only exclusive on Disney Plus, I think, day one, that they pushed really hard for the streaming service. And I think that all of the properties they own really pay the price for it. It's specifically like Star Wars and Marvel, that I think if you ask the average person that kind of fell out of them, they would say that they just have no interest in watching the shows. Like, there's quality in there. I think, like, franchise aside, Andor just is a good show. Like, not just a good Star Wars show, just a good show. But for the most part, I think their streaming model and the idea of doing these series has held them back from that. But while we've been gone, Have both of you had the opportunity to play Fire Emblem Path of Radiance on the Nintendo GameCube online, or just one of you?
I've just
not
played the
played
game
it
in the
at all.
past. It's one of my favorite Fire Emblems.
Well, that sort of like ties back to what we were saying about emulators or like being able to skip time in a video game. That, yeah, like this in comparison to an emulator is not a good deal. But if you look on eBay, or I guess look on eBay prior to this being added to the Nintendo Classics line, this game was like $100, $200, right? Like it was one of the
Yeah.
GameCube games that was really up there. And then now you can just play it here. And for, I don't know, for a hypothetical person who's very online but also doesn't know anything about emulation, this is a decent deal for them. I don't think I've played... This is sort of a middle point between the one Fire Emblem I did play, which is for the Game Boy Advance, and where we are for Fire Emblem now. Would you guys call yourself Fire Emblem fans?
I would.
I'm not.
I've
I never played it.
Mm-hmm. So this would have been your first one, then?
This
yeah, but
one?
I didn't even touch this one either, honestly.
Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah, no, I held it down. I got you
Okay, I
guys.
appreciate that. Yeah, do you have any thoughts about Path of Radiance?
I think it's a really good Fire Emblem game. I think it has one of the more interesting narratives. Ike's a really good character. I like its mechanics too. I feel like it's a good mix of, old school Fire Emblem, but it also, it works for it's inviting to like new fans as well, I think, compared to a lot of other games. Like I feel like someone who got into the game series through like some of the newer games would probably enjoy it in a way that they might struggle to with some of the other games. Yeah, the world's really good. I feel like, yeah, Ike's also a really unique protagonist. The voice acting's terrible in a likable way. Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's what Fire Emblem's
glad it's-
missing. I think it really fell off when the
this
voice
ever
acting
released in
got
the
good.
West?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
So this isn't like a
Games,
big win. It's just
Okay.
good to see the games like these coming out.
This is right before the big boom, because the 3DS one was the one that really revitalized it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say right before, because this game probably had to have come out like maybe 2002 to 2005.
Right.
I forget. I think it's 2005. Actually.
Well,
So
how many
it's not
games were
like,
between? It was just like another Wii Ike game.
one-
Path of
3DS?
Radiance, and there was Radiant Dawn, then there was I think after that it was the Shadow Dragon remake plus the Shadow Dragon sequel remake, which only came out in Japan. So I mean there were a few games in between, but yeah, I guess it's just like I wouldn't say right before, but I kind of get what you mean when you say that then.
Mm-hmm. I love the CG cutscenes. Are these in the movie or in the game?
Yeah, there are a few. They're not like that many, but it's about as much as it's like a typical amount of pre-rendered cutscenes you'd see in a video game at this time.
Yeah.
It actually aged pretty well, all things considered. Like it doesn't.
Yeah, no,
look
I think
terrible.
Mordecai killing.
Yeah. I guess one thing I don't like about this game compared to a lot of other Fire Emblems is I think the combat scenes themselves, like the in-game combat, gets a little bit samey. Though honestly, that's a problem with a lot of Fire Emblem games. But you turn off animations, I think the game is so much fun.
Wait, so because these look kind of like these are kind of sick animations.
No, they are.
say
They
that
are. I
again.
think it's just that they're a little slow.
Sick anime. Oh, I get it.
They're a little slow. So when there's a lot, when you're seeing like 100.
I guess if
Like
you've seen
100.
them already hundreds of times, they get
get
derivative
old.
as
I
you're
feel like-
watching.
One thing they do in the later games is that they're a little more speedy with the animations, and I think also they're a little more expressive. Like in the GBA games, they're a little more expressive. It's still good though. I mean, that's just more of a nitpick than anything.
What's the ratio of
Yeah.
cutscenes to gameplay in this game compared to modern Fire Emblem games?
Probably about the same. No, I wouldn't say about the same, because modern Fire Emblem games, you usually will play a chapter and there's like some housekeeping you do with all your little like bits and bops and like side quests and shit. Old school Fire Emblem, it's really just a continuous story. You don't like have a freely explorable map, although some games you did. You did have that in Sacred Stones, but this one, like, you usually just go between chapter to chapter, and there's still support conversations and stuff like that, but they're all accessed from the same place. There's not really an overworld. It's just you just kind of like have like your own supply thing, and yeah.
I guess that's the difference of what we just saw is like a scene like this where there's just character PNGs and then text appears in front of them as opposed to like a fully rendered cutscene. But there is sort of the charm of like the limited animations. The Twitch chat was referencing Ike in the context of Smash Bros. That most people just know him as Smash Bros. That's how I feel about the Black Knight. I don't know anything about the Black Knight, but I remember in Smash speculation when everyone was talking about him being an Echo Fighter or just its own character altogether because his assist trophy was not there. Or no, he was missing from the background of a stage. And really any character that gets brought up in the context of Smash, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. As far as Fire Emblem characters go, I would love a heavy. Granted, that is... I think what I said before is that, and what I do most years is that I work on the Smash video, and this will hopefully be the conclusion to that saga, the second Fighter's Pass. So I've been very deeply rooted, whether it's writing or editing, in the era of 2020 and 2021. And I thought before when I did the previous year, I was like, oh, I'll just release like smaller videos leading up to that. But I think that it would be better suited if I just like wait, and then that one will hopefully have a bigger impact when it's done and when it comes out. Because, I don't know, I do think potentially there's maybe an overabundance. Because that was the same thing I was saying earlier, that because I was so worried about running out of time, I thought like, oh, I need to do all of these videos now. Like, I need to get them done while I still have time. But now that I'm sort of like, I don't know if over the hump isn't the right term, but like, I'm through it now where I think, like, this is probably, maybe not for the long haul, but just for, like, a while longer. I'm like, I could probably pace myself a little bit more and hopefully not strain myself as much with work and just release them when they're done. I think that one will hopefully be around the time that the Inkling Smash Ball reveal happened in, like, early March, ideally. So I can get other stuff done as well. We're going to keep doing this show also. I forgot why I brought that up. Oh, yeah, because of the Black Knight. There was no context of that. I've just been very deeply set in the 2020 and 2021 era. We want to talk about that for a second because I do have, I don't know which one of these files I got to open. Let me check over here. Everything sort of got scattered around. That what we can do, since we are both wrapping up 2025 and moving into 2026, this was my completed tier list of 2025. I did that like on New Year's and I released it. I have since gotten the Oscars shortlist, and there were about 28 or 27 movies that are nominated that I hadn't watched that I'm trying to finish before the Oscars actually happened. So I watched Song Sung Blue, and in a hypothetical where I'm still updating this tier list, I would put it wherever Deep Breath is. Do you guys know anything about Song Sung Blue? Oh, I guess I'll put it here.
No.
It's like it's a remake of a documentary, but it's like played by Hugh Jackman. I said this in context of Deep Breath or whatever it's called early last year. It feels like the end of Chicken Little, where they're retelling the story but with action stars. Like, it's just a yassified version, and I don't understand that. But I did finish shows like that had wrapped up after we finished doing this, like Fiona and Cake and Haha You Clowns and Pluribus. And I know that, Dan, did you watch any of those? I know you brought up something in context of that.
I did watch Pluribus. I did see Pluribus.
Oh, you watched all of it? You have any thoughts?
Yeah, I've seen the whole show.
Is it done?
All of Pluribus.
Just the first season.
Oh, okay. I thought it was still going on. Or at least season one was still going on.
It's only like 9 episodes, so it was just a quick watch.
I also finished Stranger Things. Doesn't matter, but... I wasn't disappointed because I just, like, I had already checked out anyway. Like, I knew people were heartbroken about it. And I just, like...
MD.
House MD?
No, I'm saying I couldn't see where it was on the thing.
Oh, I think it's right here. Yeah, it's at the bottom of D.
Yeah, I see.
I mean, we don't have to talk about that as well, but I wanted to hear your thoughts about now having also finished Fiona, Haha, and Pluribus. Would you agree with where they're placed? I actually think I would put Haha a little higher,
it's a little
having
hard
rewatched
to say
it.
Just because it's like, can you zoom in a little bit?
Yeah, I think they're all more or less up here. Maybe I put Fiona a little lower, but and this is a very like artifacted version.
I mean, I honestly think Haha was my favorite show from Adult Swim this year.
Yeah, I rewatched it with my friends before we went to MagFest, and I was like, oh, wait, no, I like it. Not that I liked it more, but I was starting to realize how much I liked it. I would put it way higher. I don't even know where I put Fiona.
I mean, I think Haha was a breakout hit for sure.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it got the 2 and 3 renewal, because that means that they have faith.
2 and 3?
And, yeah, it got season 2 and 3, which is like
Well, like it got
Great.
popular online, and I feel like
It
most
did.
Adult
It got
Swim.
really because there was. I remember this specific time it got popular online because someone was like making fun of it. It's like Adult Swim will just air anything nowadays, and then that tweet blew up, and everyone was like, "This show is actually good."
Yeah. First
And
of
you're
all, I'll have
ridiculous?
you know, they were airing everything or anything the whole time. They were always doing bullshit.
Exactly.
But that show is good. But it feels
It's
like,
really good.
and it could just be sour grapes about Royal Crackers. We still don't know anything. That every year or so there is like a new Adult Swim show that I always really like, and then it kind of just goes nowhere because it isn't Rick and Morty or Smiling Friends, which I don't really blame them for. That is kind of the nature of Adult Swim, is constantly doing new things. But it's weird that this one is they've had a crazy run as of late. Like, I know that in the grand scheme, the first season of Smiling Friends was, what was that, 22 or was that 21? It was 22.
21. No, it was 2020. Is when the pilot came out. Then nothing
Yes.
2021, and then 2022 January.
Yeah, it was like huge in 22 and has sort of carried that ever since. There was a little less about the most recent season, but it wasn't out of negativity. It was just like, I don't know, placement maybe.
I think it actually got a little more hype than season 2. Personally, I could be wrong.
I feel like I see where you're coming from. I feel like more people were talking about season 3 than season 2.
I don't know. I feel like Gwimbly kind of just like completely tanks all everything.
Gwimbly is different just because that was like the sneak peek. Like, here you go. This is a really good episode.
Right.
And that aired like different from everything else. It's also weird. I've never seen them do this before. They lost the rights to air some music, or they just cheaped out, and they re-uploaded the trailers for Smiling Friends and Haha You Clowns without the copywritten music.
Oh, weird.
And if you actually go and watch the Smiling Friends season 3 trailer on YouTube right now from Adult Swim, it's all silent. Like, there's no audio at all. They muted the whole thing.
That is really
they
weird.
just
Because I feel like the season
wanna-
2 trailer, or maybe no, I think it was season 2 when it was coming back, that whenever I see your smiling
No,
face.
that's season 1.
That is season
2
1. That's
was,
an iconic trailer.
Season 2 was You're Making My Dreams Come True.
I do. Yeah. That does seem like one they
Yeah.
would lose the rights to eventually. I feel
But
like
no, season 3 was Working for a Living. They lost the rights for that.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one they lost the rights for was It To Ya, which is like not a very popular song. That's what is really like throwing me. Like, that is a shockingly like I'm wondering, did they just not want to pay it anymore? Like, that's fine, but it's
I mean,
like
that sounds like a Warner
also
Bros. Decision.
extremely it's distracting because it's like they played these trailers with this licensed music, and now every time I think of like, Working for a Living or What's It To Ya, it's like, oh, now it's gonna be Smiling Friends or Haha You Clowns, and every time I hear it without that music, it's like,
And maybe they
what
thought
if
no
that-
one
it's
would
like
notice if
Mandela
they just
affected.
re-uploaded them, or that other people would re-upload for them. That's what I'm dealing with right now. That I don't know if you guys heard that a video I made from like December 2021, so almost 5
One of your
years
musical
ago.
videos, right?
Yeah, the
your
first
musical
musical video.
right?
It's going to. They warned me ahead of time that it's going to get a copyright strike. I didn't even know that they did that.
that's
So when I was
crazy.
posting about it, I'm just like, hey, watch the video while you can. Also, just like download it and re-upload it if you want to. Because, maybe other people will re-upload it and they won't get blocked. I don't know. Because, like, for me, it'll be on the Patreon anyway. So it's frustrating, but at least I have contingencies.
I will say over the past month, I have gotten a few like weird things from YouTube about how like I've some of my older videos from like 2016 2017 can no longer be monetized because I think one of them I had like Spanish Flea as background music for a little bit. It's like,
Oh
no,
fuck!
you can't
I think
do
I've used
that.
Spanish Flea in a video before.
I feel like there are some
And,
videos that are dormant until someone watches them, because I had an unlisted or privated video of like me watching Microsoft's E3 from 2021, and I watched it for the Smash video, and then the next day I'm like, hey, they said like, hey, this is blocked in these territories. And I'm like, this is a privated video and only I watched it, so it probably like set off some
Yeah.
like it's a video that people can't watch anyway. It was really strange.
I think that's what happens. I think they kind of like if a dormant video kind of like gets attention, I think maybe some sort of, I don't know, algorithmic thing, server thing kind of rescans the video for copyrighted material. Because I've had that happen too, where like a video like gets a copyright kind of claim a while, like months after it gets out. So I think that's the kind of thing they occasionally do.
I think from like a not an insecure standpoint, but I don't want to be the metaphor of the crab pulling down other crabs, you know, into the boiling pot. But it is a little comforting that over the last couple months, I've just been doing really bad on YouTube. Like, not from like a monetary standpoint, just like numerically. And we've had this discussion before on the show that a lot of creators will get bogged up in, instead of looking inward, they'll like blame everything out, like outwardly sources, like, oh man, it's the algorithm, it's not me, it's like some people didn't watch the video because they weren't shown it, when often, you know, or maybe not often, but you know, sometimes people just don't want to watch a video. And I was not enough to like stop it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna keep going. I want to make videos anyway. But then over the last month or so, I've heard more stuff about like other bigger channels suffering the same thing, that apparently YouTube, something in like either injecting AI to the algorithm or trying to prioritize shorts so they show less videos, something like that. I don't know, but it doesn't actually take anything into account when it comes to making videos. But from like a completely selfish standpoint, I did feel a little better that at least everyone is doing kind of bad. And I know that's sort of like a bad mindset to have, but it's the same thing of like, if you're broke when the economy is shit, it's like, well, at least I'm not the only one, you know, like there's a little bit of solidarity here. Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with feeling that way. Cause like, I don't know, you know, it shows that like, at the very least, like you don't think you're doing anything like particularly like crazy or wrong. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I mean, my stance is that like,
Right.
because it's hard to talk about it without sounding like you're complaining, and nobody wants to hear that, like, oh, people aren't doing this thing, so on and so forth. Because, you know, people's time is valuable, to each their own. I'm not trying to bring it up to complain, because I've always wanted to do this anyway, and before people were watching, I was making the same videos just to no one. I will gladly continue to make them, even if no one's watching. I just thought it was worth bringing up because it's, from like a YouTube standpoint, I don't actually understand what's happening. Other people have tried to put it into words, but I feel like everyone has a different answer. I really don't know. But either way, I'll be fine. I'm like a cockroach. They can't kill me. That video, however, they are striking that video. There's not much I could do about that other than re-upload it. That's why I brought it up. But the reason
I like cut out the parts that
well, that's the thing, is that like,
do they even tell you?
Well, that's the thing. It says like, hey, your video is going to be struck. And then I go to the video and I click on the little copyright tab and it says that it has no issues. So maybe it's just like, maybe I'll see the issue once it's struck. But maybe right now, like, it just says that it will be struck in a number of days. Weird. And my thing is that, like, at first I was like, oh, because they give you an option, like, yo, either delete it or you get the strike. But I feel like I'm maybe playing with fire. I'm like, I'm just going to wait for them to do the strike. Because if the strike is they're going to take the video down anyway. So there's really no reason for me to take it down. I want to see if they actually do it.
Okay.
Because, like, I know the threat is that you can only have, what is it, like 3 strikes on your channel? Or it does something. I don't know. I would like to know, like, what the strike is itself. Yeah. But I really don't know. Maybe it's because I, like, appealed something, because that one only recently got monetized anyway. It's more from, like, a historical standpoint that, like, it is from 2021, so I was like, oh, it's sad to see that go. But, weirdly enough, and that's why I have another list over here, if we're wrapping up 2025, I've also been celebrating a lot of anniversaries and working my way backwards. That I could, as far as 2026 goes... Oh, they deleted them. Okay, never mind. Sorry, let me I'll ignore that. I'm going to switch back here real quick, and I'll put these other files in here. Have you guys seen anything new or the last 20 days that you guys think is worth talking about? Because for me, it was like one movie, I think.
I played Big Hops. That's all I had to say about that. Good game. I'm trying to think. Oh,
here we go.
What came out like in the last 20 days?
I know, right? That's where the tough I guess aspect of that is like what was literally the last couple days. It's only been 2 weeks. We're already getting ahead of stuff. I guess like that. Oh, I should maybe rank that Animal Crossing thing. Anyway, for whatever reason, the tier list thing shut down, or not shut down, but it just wasn't working. I thought it'd be better to have my own Photoshop document. All I'm getting at is that I saw can I not do this now? 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. That is the full title of the film. It is the sequel to 28 Years Later. And the opinion is sort of the same I had for Wicked Part 1 before seeing Part 2, even though I really liked Wicked Part 1, is that this movie, or maybe like Dune Part 2 is a more apt comparison, that I really like a lot of what they do in this movie, but it's the middle of a trilogy that probably didn't need to be a trilogy. Like, the fact that this movie is kind of cool makes me just dislike the first one more. Not the first 28 days later, but like 28 years later. And similarly, I told you guys about this in the chat, that same day I saw 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, I then, right after, went to go see the re-release of Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring. Because I had watched those movies before, like back in 22, but I'd watch them on like the couch, watching them on the TV, and those are very firmly, they are like theatrical experiences. And I still haven't seen the new Avatar because I don't want to see it in like a normal theater or like see it at home. Like, I think I really don't get it. I don't know if we talked about this because if I started watching them after we went off the show, but like I watched the second Avatar movie and also rewatched the first one, and I just don't get it. There's a lot of people who really like film who I respect their opinions, and like I felt the same way about Mission Impossible until I watched them. I'm like, oh, these are just dumb action movies. And then I watched them, I'm like, oh my god, this is fantastic. I don't understand the Avatar hype at all. Like the James Cameron Avatar.
A lot of the Avatar hype is just the visuals. Like, I
Sure,
don't think
yeah.
you can argue that the visuals look fantastic. Like, I don't think anyone is going to argue with that. But I think people are also like, I think more people are kind of like realizing that, yeah, I mean, they're a little samey. Like, the third act is always the same every time. And it's just like, I like the movies because of how they look. I think they have okay stories. I don't care that much. I still think they're fantastic visual. Like, they're good in that they're giving people jobs and they're doing really good jobs.
Yeah. It's the same thing with like Dune, sort of, where you really do need to see it in that same experience. But it was extending it to Lord of the Rings. And the plan was, because they re-released the entire trilogy for the series, I guess 25th anniversary of the first movie, which was 2001. And they released them over the weekend. So it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And they were all the extended cuts. So the version of Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring I watched was like a 4-hour experience. And when I tell you, like, this could be an exaggeration, you know when you go to the movies and there's a forward ahead of the movie, like Tom Cruise is sitting in a chair and he's like, hey, thank you for coming to the movies. Or whenever there's a re-release, they have the director. And some, like, they're supposed to be sitting in a director's chair and there's like a backdrop and it's shot with cameras. This one, like, it was Peter Jackson in his living room, like, clearly filming on his phone, and you could tell the prompt they gave him was just like, oh, tell a story about the movie. And he rambled on for like 15 minutes about not even about Fellowship of the Ring, just about nothing. And I guess because he's the director and it's the big re-release, it's like, oh, we have to leave this in. We can't cut any of this down. So I feel like a not insignificant amount of that re-release was the forward of Peter Jackson sort of like rubbing his chin, being like, yeah, what about this movie? I don't know. He even, to the point where not that he didn't get it, but he was telling an anecdote where a fan of his came up to him and he's like, oh, I got the tickets for the re-release. And he said like, oh, why wouldn't you just watch it at home? Like, he seemed to not and there were people in the theater, like, chuckling after, like, every other sentence because he kept sighing and then keep going. It was really weird. Anyway, I only watched Fellowship of the Ring because the next day, the second one was showing earlier at a farther theater, and then it started, like, snowing and sleeting, and I am a 25-year-old adult, and I was too scared to go out driving that day. And then I thought there's no point in seeing the third one because I skipped the second one, so I only saw Fellowship of the Ring. That's how my weekend was. That's not even why I brought it up. I brought up anniversaries because, obviously, I've been writing a lot about 2021 for this Smash video, and it's weird to me, maybe not weird, but just the passage of time, that we are now at the 5-year mark since 2021. And once the COVID restrictions, for the most part, were lifted, that's when I vowed that I would see more movies. And starting in 2022, I wanted to go to the theater every week. So as far as like 22, 23, 24, and now 25, I've seen over 52 movies that came out those years, but not anything before that. So I thought it would be a fun experiment this year to now work my way backwards each year. So I started a bit on stream where, one, I had a list of games that came out in 2021 that the chatters would decide what I play. And then each week, because I normally just see rewatch older movies on call with people, the same day I see movies in theaters, that I also have now seen. I'm a couple weeks behind, but I have seen 2 films from 2021. I rewatched The Black Phone because I've seen The Black Phone now like 3 times. And I rewatched it last year ahead of the new one. And the funniest thing about it is that a sequel exists at all. So I'm just going to do this quickly. I'll put that in like the worst person in the world. It kind of felt like, and this was an Oscar nominated film, it sort of felt like the meme from Arrested Development where there's a bag that says dead dove, like do not eat. And they take it out of the fridge and then open it up and there's a dead dove inside. And he says like, oh, I don't know what I expected. This movie is called The Worst Person in the World, and I ended up thinking, like, man, I hated those people. So I don't know if that's the mark of a good movie or not, but I'll put it in C. And also, the game that my chat chose was the re-release of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the video game, which came out January 2021. And it's like a fighting game, not like structurally, but like from a learning curve where as I'm playing it, I'm like, this is impossible. I fucking hate this. This is so frustrating. And then as you start to like play it more, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. No, this has like technique to it. So I'll put it here. This is where I will continually update you guys and regale you of the year 2021. But that's where I am with that. That was the weekend. As far as news goes, though, because we have missed a decent amount of stuff as far as Nintendo goes. This one is sort of just not a personal vendetta per se, but I think that if the main thread last year, or a major thread that we were following, when it came to speculation, everyone kept talking about the next directs, because the directs were sort of all out of order, and it seemed like most of the big directs last year were actually individual game directs, as opposed to like a big June direct or a big February direct that we normally have. This isn't part of my predictions that we're going to get into, but I do think that the next direct will be in February. I think the weird, like, Switch 2 and Switch 1 directs a week apart last year. I can't wait to hear more about last year, like, as we get some distance, because it seems so scrambled, which is weird because they had all the mock-ups ready. Like, from the first showcase of the Switch 2, it felt like a here damn situation because it was about to leak out. It kind of seemed like they weren't really ready for it, which makes it even more strange with the slate of games. Anyway, the thread that we were following for the most part that people kept talking about, other than the games we already knew, was that it was Super Mario's 40th anniversary. And for the 35th anniversary, we got the 3D All-Star Collection of Super Mario 64, Super Mario Sunshine, and Super Mario Galaxy. We got it for a limited time. And the Galaxy Collection, Galaxy 1 and 2, that hasn't released yet, right? Or has that already released?
No, it came out.
It did? Yeah, I didn't play because I actually, like, of the games that I played last year on stream, it was a bunch of Switch 2 games, and then on a whim, me and my chat, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go back to Mario Galaxy, and I'm going to go to Chibi Robo, these 2 random retro games. And then later in the year, they both got re-released. So I guess I was accidentally on top of things. Anyway, so for Mario's big anniversary, it seems like we didn't get any major games or showcases. It seemed like the big game for the anniversary was Mario Kart World. We just got it a little bit too early, as opposed to something like
the big showcase for the 40th was just
Galaxy.
Mario Galaxy trailer.
Yeah. And that movie does come out this year. I believe that the Zelda movie comes out in 2027, right? Yeah, similarly, so. This is a Famitsu article that I found. It tickled me because I love Famitsu, and I feel like I only ever bring it up in the context of Masahiro Sakurai's columns in it that he used to do before he had his channel. You could see in big bold words Netflix here. What the article is saying is that the potential insider information that after the Zelda movie's theatrical run, that it will then go to Netflix. And this is we don't actually know which studio is like, we know the director and the actors. We don't know which studio this is through, right? Like, we know it's Nintendo Entertainment, but the animated films were Illumination. I don't actually know, but knowing what we know now, at the very tail end of last year, that the big story was that Netflix was attempting to buy out Warner Bros. And Paramount is still trying to stretch that deal out right now. That when I see the big bold Netflix letters, I'm concerned that this movie will only have like a week or 2 week run in theaters. But maybe this could be wrong. It's still until 2027. But it's Sony. Oh, well, that is. Well, I guess Sony had Spider-Verse on Netflix. They do have a deal with Netflix for the most part.
Yeah, I think it should be fine. Nintendo's a big enough property that they'll keep it in theaters long enough, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, worthwhile information. And again, like, this is a Japanese article, and Netflix has different selections for every different country or territory. So this couldn't even just... It's possible this doesn't even apply to us. But I brought it up because we were bringing up Zelda. And that is because this year is The Legend of Zelda's... Is it its 35th anniversary or also its 40th? Is it 1 year younger than Mario? We're gearing up for the...
If it was 1 year, it wouldn't be 35th. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because Mario's 40th was last year.
Yeah, it's 40th.
Okay, it's 40th.
Legend of 86 then.
Right. So what we talked about, and we could talk about what we think the Zelda anniversary will mean, because obviously nothing that big was for Mario aside from the movie. Maybe we'll see more information about the Zelda movie this year. But when I was looking into other people's predictions for 2026, because I wanted to bounce ideas, and that's what we're going to get into later, two of the major threads I saw were, one, something big with Zelda. Oh, they must do something big for the 40th anniversary. It has to happen. And two, building off of the Mario anniversary and Donkey Kong Bonanza as a launch title, there are tons of people online that are still convinced there's a secret 3D Mario that we don't know about yet that's going to be released this year. And this isn't actually relative to what I'm showing here, so I'm going to cut away real quick and then we'll go back to that. Do you guys think that's a possibility? Because I feel like they view Bonanza as the 3D Mario. And I feel like this conversation keeps happening.
I put it in my list, in my predictions.
Okay.
I'm getting kind of convinced. You know, I was going to say this. Like, I feel like I was kind of caught under your spell for a little bit.
My sultry tones, yeah.
Yeah, no, like... But the thing is, you know, I think although there's clearly a lot of parallels between Donkey Kong Bonanza and Super Mario Odyssey, like, there clearly isn't... There's parallels in the game design, but I don't think there's parallels in terms of, like, what Mario is to Nintendo, what Mario is to the general public, in the way that it is. Like Mario is too big for, I think, them to think like, oh, well, we don't need to make a Mario game for a while. You know, there's Donkey Kong. You know, I feel like what we might get, honestly, is potentially a new Mario game, 3D Mario, but it's not in the style of Odyssey. You know, the more I'm thinking about it, like, that could happen.
Like, closer to a 3D world?
No, maybe. Just like, I think it might not be made by a lot of the brain power in Odyssey. I mean, because, you know, when you think about it, like, Odyssey itself... I mean, the Mario game, the 3D Mario before that was 3D World, then you have 3D Land, then Galaxy, and those are all very different games, all things considered. So I could very easily see that maybe to Nintendo, like, that's just a, like, what's I gonna say? They just got someone else to make the new Mario game.
Yeah,
you know?
Nothing says it has to be those specific times.
I mean, I think I didn't actually like have 3D Mario in my list, but I was saying that I did have something Mario related. Actually, I had two things Mario related, but we can save that for when we talk about predictions. I did think that there's a chance we get a 3D Mario, or at the very least, the announcement of a 3D Mario. I don't think it'll be the level of Odyssey, and I don't think it'll be 3D World. I think it'll try to go for more of a Galaxy approach because I think they're really like leaning into Galaxy a lot, like a lot.
It's gonna be Galaxy 3
the past few months.
Galaxy
and B,
DS.
I just think like having a 3D game that's a bit more linear, but not like linear in regards to 3D World, would be good to do just for a good 3D Mario game, and also to showcase like the looks of it, because Galaxy and Galaxy 2 are like some of the best looking games on the Wii, and I could just imagine how a Galaxy-esque game would look on the Switch 2 when it's made for the Switch 2.
Yeah, my theory for the longest time, before we knew anything about Bonanza and the most recent 3D Mario outing, if we want to call it, was Bowser's Fury, which was built into the re-release of 3D World, that it seemed like they were testing the idea of like an open world 3D Mario game. And my stance is still the same, that I think that that did result in Bonanza, but I think you guys could be right that because of that, we don't necessarily need an open world 3D Mario. It could be something a little bit more linear, like Galaxy, especially if even Mario Kart now has an open world. I think not that people being sick of it would shape Nintendo's development at all, because if there's a 3D Mario coming out, then they already started work on it forever ago. And that's another piece of argument, that what I didn't know at all until I went back to do research for the new Smash video is that there have been leaks about Bonanza since 2020. That, like, the Odyssey team is working on a Donkey Kong game with Pauline.
I think I knew about that. I think I remember hearing about that, but then I also heard it was like canceled. And then it just wasn't canceled.
Right, so we now know that it was in development
like,
for the Switch, and then was held off for the Switch 2. Not to be a launch title, but just because they couldn't have as much foliage on screen, I think is one of the examples they gave. Something like that. I'm not super convinced it could still be this year, but I don't think it's impossible. And it's interesting what you said about, it doesn't have to be Nintendo EPD specifically working on it, because a lot of other people's predictions I saw were something about Smash Bros. And the argument against it is always like, well, Masahiro Sakurai just directed Air Riders. Like, that game just came out. But I don't think it's impossible that they moved forward with a Smash game without Sakurai. Like, I don't think that's necessarily out of the realm of possibility. I'm not going to get into my predictions per se, but another popular one was something Luigi's Mansion related, because not Mercury Stream, the company behind it, is it Next Level Games? Something like that. I think Nintendo bought
ND-Cube?
No, that's the Mario Party one. It was the same company that only developed Mario Strikers and Luigi's Mansion games, because I forgot that Camelot makes the golf and tennis games. That their last game was in 22 with Mario Strikers Battle League, so they could have been working on something, and a lot of people assume it is Luigi's Mansion. But again, like, you know, if Nintendo wants a different developer to work on Luigi's Mansion, they easily could do that.
Yeah.
Just to mix them up a little bit. Anyway, in context of Mario's previous anniversary in 2020. The only reason I bring this up is because we were shown two things. Not only is this Zelda's 40th anniversary, but I believe it's also Pokemon's 30th, because it was 96. So they're both and even Sonic has like its 30th anniversary or 35th anniversary. Big year for anniversaries, which is insane.
Dude, shit went down in 1985.
People locked the fuck in 96. That there are two releases that happen in between, or two teasers that happen in between episodes of Switch 2 Ultra. And one is this Legend of Zelda Lego set. And some people have even used this as evidence to be like, oh, we're going to get Ocarina of Time remastered. Like, why would they focus only on Ocarina when the latest game is Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom? Why would they do that? Anyway, those of you who have been following Switch 2 Ultra know that I have a vendetta against the Mario Lego they released in 2020, because it's not a minifigure. It's like a weird brick that you have to build. So I was happy to see that they have actual minifigures of Ganondorf, Link, and Zelda. But for Pokemon's anniversary, they got whatever fucking bullshit this is. Oh, and I understand for the bigger Pokemon.
What is that?
I know, right? They look like this. And for the bigger Pokemon, I guess it makes sense. You can't make minifigures of them. This pose looks cool, but they're just like bulky. I just don't like how it looks at all. It's also $650.
That's disgusting. That's more than the Switch 2. Oh my god.
So Pokemon's celebrating its anniversary as well. That's legitimately the only reason I brought those Legos up, is because I hate that Mario Lego.
So gross.
internally, if we're talking about releases as well, getting ahead of our, it's going to
Quote
come out in
unquote.
February. And the colors are
And by
around
color,
the
you mean,
analog
like,
stick
not really color.
and on the inside. So yeah, when it's attached to the Switch, you can't really see these colors. Only on the thumbstick. I'll be honest. I
Very
know
funny.
people warned me about this. Maybe just because the couch is a little worse for wear. But ever since I played Drag X Drive with my Switch 2 Joy-Cons, they've had like this this black soot on the Joy-Con, on like the mouse sides of things, because I was dragging on my couch so hard to move around my wheelchair guy. And that's just like a permanent fixture of that. There was a period of time, and Switchy was here for that I was handling the Switch 2 with so much care. And it's not like I'm bouncing it off the wall now, but like I wouldn't even touch it without gloves. Like I was like, I don't want to mess up this screen at all. But now that I've got a little bit under the belt, basically as soon as I get one fingerprint on the screen, I'm like, okay, well now I can manhandle this thing. Now we're over the hump a little bit, and I don't have to worry as much about it. However, we're not even a year into the Switch 2's lifetime. I know people personally that didn't get the Switch 2, not because it wasn't OLED, but because of that fact they believed that there was going to be different models of it released later, or maybe even cheaper models. And we talked about how a big point of people's discretion with the Switch 2 is the price point. This is a leak happened over on Blue Sky. And this is sort of a personal affront for me, because you may have noticed the severe lack of Twitter bookmarks that I normally have on screen. This isn't really a resolution as much as my other New Year's resolutions, but, and I don't shame anyone else for using it, but specifically throughout January, Twitter has gotten like really awful just to use and just to be on. All of the horrendous shit. And then I think they like announced on the 15th they're going to start like just automatically AI machine learning with people's posts. And I've already posted a ton on there.
I think that was overblown. I think people have realized.
Yeah. Well, the same thing with Wikipedia, that people said like, oh my God, they have a contract with AI. But the contract just meant like, hey, you can't use these posts for machine learning. It was basically them contractually opting out. Anyway.
Interesting. I thought like Wikipedia was like a source used by like LLM models.
I think it was meant to, and maybe it still is. I'm not super certain, but I could just tell you, from a personal standpoint, I still have my sources and links that I'm getting from other places. But as of January 15th, I have deleted the Everything app from my phone. And this is going to be real embarrassing in like a couple months when I'm back on Switch 2 Ultra and I re-downloaded it in shame. I don't know. I'm just trying not to use it, and it not being on my phone has helped a lot. But I can't imagine you guys, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but you're also both on the app. I have tried to use Blue Sky as a replacement, and it just is not the same. Like, I don't know what it is about Blue Sky. There's just
the algorithm is very different. If you're looking at it like a Twitter replacement,
very old school Twitter in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people want to use it. I feel like
the algorithm is so not. You had to be there from basically day one, and if you're not there from day one, you're kind of effed in regards to getting like any sort of like following at all, or any sort of pickup from the algorithm. And like, it's just kind of a little bit of an echo chamber in more ways than one, and it's
you can get like marked for being rude.
Like Twitter is a trash fire, but that I like that. It's entertaining to see.
You need a little bit of sparring, you know. There's no one to dunk on Blue Sky when everyone agrees.
No, I remember I saw a post, and it was like I found out my boss was Jewish today because I said that Monday is like the Benjamin Netanyahu of like weekdays, like, and it's like I saw someone say that, and they're like, oh, you just don't get posts like this on Blue Sky. You know, I feel like people just kind of like are more mischievous on Twitter, for better or for worse.
People just say things on Twitter.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, to be fair, I mean, like, you know, I don't want to justify awful things people say on Twitter, but on some level, I feel like there is a benefit to like a less controlled conversation, obviously within reason, that I think on some level, you know, I don't know. I mean, it feels like on Blue Sky, it's very restrictive in a
Yeah.
certain way.
I don't
That,
want.
you know, in some ways, like I don't think I'm gonna get harassed or like doxxed on Blue Sky, but it's just I don't
Yeah.
know. I feel
I
like
don't need Twitter to like become this perfect utopia. I just need it to like backpedal to like 2021 times. Like it doesn't even
Yeah.
need to go back that far. Just undo all the recent bullshit. All the X of it all, you know?
yeah. I
I'm
mean,
still
renaming it was just ridiculous.
I'm
That
still
was
holding
like,
out hope that like someday it'll just go back to Twitter cuz everyone still calls it Twitter. But it's been X
yeah,
for what, like 3 years now?
yeah,
I
maybe
think
like two.
they really like screwed up when like the API thing is really what kind of screwed them over. Like having such an exorbitant price to use the API, and then a bunch of like things that use Twitter. It's like, hey, you just saved this clip on your Nintendo Switch. You want to post it directly to Twitter? Can't do that anymore.
Yeah. For me, the turning point was, and for all the stuff that they can backpedal on, I don't think they're going to backpedal on this because this is something that Instagram does too. The paying for verified badge, that was sort of the turning point for me. Where after that, every single blue, yellow, gray check mark I saw, I just immediately muted. And I had like a mute list of like 1,500,000. And
Wow.
yeah, well, I don't have to worry about that on Blue Sky, but like my experience on Twitter, and maybe the reason I was on it for so long is just because I wasn't having as bad of a time as everyone else because I didn't see any of the blue check marks. Like I was like, that's not a real person. It's either someone engagement baiting or it's a bot. I don't trust that person. That's not a real thing. That's like something, you know, made for engagement. But yeah, there's not. You need a little bit of that dark woke. There is no discourse on this app. And I don't even care about the algorithm. I just don't think it's funny. I just don't think there are a lot of posts on Blue Sky where I'm like, man, I've never been in my day-to-day life. Granted, it's only been a handful of weeks where I'm like, oh, you got to see, have you seen that Blue Sky post? It's really funny. For me, it just like isn't, I think people are overcorrecting and want to use it as news. Like they want it to be so much that public square that all people do is repost terrible news, and they're like, huh, yeah, we gotta vote this guy out. Not that I disagree, because I do agree. You know, that old dude needs to go away forever for everything to get better. But there's no give and take. It is all just you open the app and you get sad.
Yeah.
And for a while, my
Yeah.
TikTok was like that too, that I trained it back to just showing me weird edits and obscure people. And I'm not arguing for not being informed, because I think it's important to be informed, but it's not the only thing the app should be used for. There's no solid arguments, I think. It's honestly just like, if in a perfect world, like I don't think there's anything systemically wrong with the app. If everyone on Twitter just immediately went to Blue Sky, I think it would get better, but you can't ask everyone to do that. Like, I don't even blame anyone for staying on the app. I think for my mental health, and just in general, I took the plunge and deleted the app, and I want to see how long it lasts. Maybe I'll return someday hat in hand, but I forgot that I accidentally scheduled a tweet every week leading up to, like, the summer about Balto 2. I forgot I did that, so those are going to keep coming out, but yeah, I'm not on Twitter right now. But I have information regardless, and this is the first leak that I saw on Blue Sky that seemed interesting, so I hope to see more of this. Anyway, this person is from Sky, or this is Sky. I think I've discovered something interesting, but I have no idea what it implies. On Nintendo's account portal, there's an unused model code under the name OSM. The Switch 2's model code is BEE. Postal Portal has images for each. My cat just knocked over my microphone. So I'm
Cat's
slowly
the Nintendo
leaning on
ninja.
it.
He doesn't
He's
want you sharing this
between the
information.
microphone and the keyboard. I put a bed on the desk so they would stop doing that, but the portal has images for each Switch model, and requesting OSM returns an image of a Switch 2. So this doesn't necessarily mean anything. Sky didn't even imply anything in it, but all of the replies and quotes were everyone saying like, oh man, this must be hinting at a Switch Lite, or a Switch 2 Lite, or a Switch 2 Big, or whatever they call it. That there is this different model, and I guess like you could argue this looks sort of like the way a Switch Lite works or looks, but this is also just the rounded texture of a Switch 2 anyway. And on top of that, what is the benefit of a Switch 2 Lite? Like I thought the appeal of the Switch 2 are the specs. Unless they can make it have the same power of the Switch 2, just only handheld and cheaper, that's the appeal, is the cheaper aspect, because I knew people who only had the Switch Lite because they saw no use in just getting the actual Switch because it was a much better deal. But I don't know. I think it's probably too early to have additional models.
With the Lite, can't you also not detach the Joy-Cons? Like, aren't they like...
they're stuck on there.
So then there goes mouse mode, right? Like, you'd have to get separate Joy-Cons for mouse mode. That's stupid.
Yes.
And didn't it also like not have a kickstand or something?
I think so, yeah, because you could like put it in your pocket. Well, this is the thing, is like of making a bigger Switch Lite, or a Lite version of the Switch 2. So what? It's going to be the size of the original Switch? Like, at a certain point, we're moving away from convenience.
That's ridiculous. Like, that's so dumb. Like,
that is, if we're believing this means anything.
I don't think it means anything. I think I saw something similar where like they did like a Animal Crossing promo, and like I don't know if you saw this, but like the screen was like very big, like the bezels weren't there, and it's like, is this the Switch 2 OLED? And people were like, no, it's not the Switch 2 OLED.
At this point, like, I just play in docked mode anyway, and to me it's a negligible difference that I already paid $500 for the Switch 2. I have no desire to pay a more expensive OLED. Like, I don't see what that does for me. Because for me, I guess that's the argument we've had before. Not argument per se, but like who the Switch 2 is for, or why it's not selling, or who it would appeal to. That the selling of the Switch was a very big or deep cut into the casual market. That there are people that only have a Switch. Like, that was their indie game machine. And as far as handhelds go, it's still, like, the Switch 2 is still better than the Steam Deck. I would argue even the Switch 1 is better than the Steam Deck. That... I get a Nintendo console.
What do you like about the Switch 2 that the Steam Deck doesn't have?
Well, I think they're about the same level of specs, and just like it's more convenient to carry around and hold the Switch 2. I'll be honest though, like I predominantly play the Switch 2 in dock, and maybe just because I haven't given myself space to play it yet, that whenever I do play it in handheld mode, after like an hour, like my hands get kind of uncomfortable. Like I feel like I haven't accumulated to the size of the Switch 2 yet.
Interesting. I feel like I've always had that trouble with the Switch. Like, all things considered, it's not like that ergonomic to me.
Maybe
like,
it's because I mostly play in handheld. I don't have that problem personally. That being said, if I'm holding a Steam Deck, I definitely feel that problem. That's just a girthier thing.
It also gets hot.
Oh, it does get hot. It gets very hot.
Yeah. Well, for me, like, that's my thing, is that I get a Nintendo console to play Nintendo games. There's a Resident Evil coming out that's also coming out on Switch 2, but I'm not going to play it on the Switch 2. I'll play it on my PlayStation or Xbox or PC. We still don't know anything more about that Steam machine. Basically, after...
well, they kind of leaked the prices.
Ooh. Oh, yeah, it was like in the thousands, right? And, something like that?
Yeah, it's in the thousands. So,
yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I guess I'm not getting a Steam machine.
Oh, no. Well, hey, but what if it's bundled with that Half-Life 3 that's coming out, though?
I still can't. I can't afford $1,000 right now.
It hasn't been deconfirmed. So far, every week I'm locking it in. That's going to be one of my Nintendo predictions, is Half-Life 3. It's coming for sure now. This week, for sure. I'm locking this in now.
Tomorrow, for sure.
Oh, yeah, and Deltarune's is here also. That'd be Deltarune tomorrow. Okay, well, now that we're done with this page over here, that price is most likely wrong. Well, like, they said it would be priced competitively with computers, and most computers are like $1,000 anyway. If it was priced competitively with consoles, then it could be, even if it was like $500, $700, that's still a lot, but at least, like, that's more understandable.
I could get that, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I can't do that for $1,000. Like, I have a Steam Deck. I'm good enough with the Steam Deck. Honestly, the Steam Deck is, I think, fairly priced, all things considered.
Yeah.
I think that's a good price. I never got the OLED. I just have the LCD one, and it works just fine for me. And I don't need a Steam machine if it's going to be basically double that.
Yeah.
I just don't need that.
The appeal of a Steam Deck, it's kind of a bed console, or like a couch console. Or just for, like, you know, if you don't have a computer to play Steam games, it's a convenient way.
That's
and the same applies to the Steam
machine.
The leak price was wrong. It was confirmed a placeholder. Okay, but what I'm saying is they said it would be priced competitively with computers. So I listen, I hope you're right. I hope it is less than $1,000, but I don't think it is. We still don't have a release date. I think people were saying that it would come out in March, but we don't actually know, right?
I don't think so.
Was for 2026 itself, there are outside games outside of the Nintendo bubble that I'm excited for. That Lego Batman game, that potentially Grand Theft Auto 6. You never know, it might get delayed again. I think those are the big ones. There's like 3 different tag fighting games coming out this year based around Invincible characters, Marvel characters, and Avatar characters. And I feel like they all come out in the summer. Just in time for Evo. Well, outside of that, it's mostly Nintendo releases. And I'm assuming that both for Pokemon's big anniversary and it's been 4 years since Generation 9 that we're probably going to get Generation 10, the first Pokemon game made from the ground up for the Switch 2. I'm actually excited to see how that goes because...
Well, we'll see.
Right. It seems like their excuse for a while was that, like, oh, they're really held back by the Switch, and for whatever reason, like, the Game Freak couldn't pull off the optimization that Nintendo was pulling off, even though they're, like, you know, they work together, that they just couldn't make something like Breath of the Wild. So hopefully...
Yeah, no, I've always hated that argument because I just think it's like, no, I'm sorry, dude. There is a very big difference between... Like Game Freak, like Scarlet and Violet doesn't run badly because the Switch doesn't have enough power. It's because Game Freak is just not. There's not very
late
optimized.
Last year, or I guess early in the previous year, there was that huge leak of a bunch of Pokemon files and emails, and there were early builds of ZA. And the main difference between them, between the finished release and the beta, or the unfinished version, is that all of the windowsills and textures and like bricks and doors, they were all 3D models in the original build, and then on release it was just one flat texture. So I feel like a lot of that is like they build the game, because games are developed on computer. Like they have dev kits, but for the most part now the infrastructure of consoles is so similar to that anyway that they just port it over, that they build the game and then they're like, okay, we got to get it to run on Switch. And for whatever reason, Pokemon's biggest issue has been optimization. And again, they work hand in hand with Nintendo, so I don't know how they haven't figured out optimization yet. Hopefully it won't be an issue on the Switch too.
You might know better than me. I always assume, they just,
well,
they share a lot of resources.
No, not really. Like, Nintendo doesn't develop the game, but that's always the argument, is that, like, that's the thing, is whenever people talk about, oh, Nintendo really fell off, or, man, I don't trust modern Nintendo, the example they always give are Pokemon games. And you can't really fight back on that because, they are published by Nintendo. They have a stake in it, so it is part of their burden to bear. However, Nintendo doesn't develop the Pokemon games. Game Freak does. And sometimes Ilka does. I would argue that, like, the Pokemon games that look the best are the ones that are in tandem developed by Koei Tecmo or Bandai Namco. Like, I think Nintendo just owns Pokemon. Like, it's more that they have exclusivity rights. They have a stake in it early on. But they don't develop the games, which is why... Because say what you will about, like, Nintendo games, and... I think towards the tail end of the Switch 1, like Princess Peach's Showtime, the loading screens were longer than they should be. But for the most part, all of the games are really well optimized for the Switch. Like the fact that Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom
I have issues with on my own, honestly.
Princess Peach's Showtime? I have a lot of
issues with Princess Peach's Showtime, yeah.
I just thought it was kind of boring.
Yeah, I had issues with the 8 hours I played of it, and then I beat the game.
And it punishes you for missing one little thing. And you can't go back, and it moves at the pace of molasses, and you gotta.
Oh yeah, no, but I wasn't like, I never was in the mood. I'm like thinking that I needed to like 100% Princess Peach's Showtime, so I don't think I ever got.
No, I got that shit in my brain where they give me a checklist. I need to finish it.
I need to finish it. You don't get it.
Well, that's how I felt. Like I said earlier, I have no desire to go back to Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. And, like, there are some games, and you brought up Pizza Tower before. For the most part, on stream, if I start a game, I like...
100% that
yeah, game. I like to eventually 100% it, but I drew the line at A rank. I'm like, okay, I'll get A rank for all the levels and all the collectibles, but I'm not doing S rank. Like, that's...
And then
just,
P rank, too.
Yeah, that's just out of my ability. Like, I just cannot do that. And
I'm old. I don't have the reflexes.
Right, but Dan, you have now played a little bit more of Metroid Prime 4.
Yes, I just got to the end of Volt Forge, and honestly, it's not terrible. It's that sounded worse than it was. It's good. It's a good game. I'm enjoying it. It runs like butter. I'm shocked how well this game runs. Like, I'm playing in a quality mode. No, I'm playing quality mode, which on the Switch 2 is still 60 FPS, 1080p. And I think performance mode is 60 FPS, 120. Or no, I'm sorry, 1080p, 120 FPS, which is nuts. But honestly, I'm good with 60. Game runs fantastically. I will say, I haven't had that moment that clicks yet, you know? I'm not hating the game, but I'm just not getting to that click moment yet, you know? It's just, it feels so not worth the wait. Not in a bad way, just in a way that this is like, this feels like another Metroid Prime game instead of this is the Metroid Prime 4 that we've been waiting for.
Yeah, for me, I hope we're out of the worst where this new game is not just like, okay, Metroid Prime 4, and then we'll wait another 7 years and then get Metroid Prime 5 maybe. I hope that this is sort of just like, okay, we had a rough start, but now we're doing like maybe in 2 years the next game, and then another 2 years the next game. Like, I hope that we don't have another gap
honestly.
like that. And I agree, and it's sort of, I think we talked about this at the tail end of the year. It's the same thing with Mario Kart World, where there hadn't been a new Mario game for over a decade. And that's why, for most people, Mario Kart World sort of fell flat. Whereas if we just had, like, a Switch Mario Kart, even though I really like 8 Deluxe and the DLC Booster Course Pass.
8 Deluxe is great.
Yeah.
8 Deluxe.
The fact that there
I go back
was...
to 8 Deluxe.
The fact that there was that long of a gap is just, like, yeah, it's really emblematic that it just... And I used the same comparison before, but it was like the bit from SpongeBob where Mr. Krabs is golfing, and then he goes, "Wait a minute, I hate golf." That all of my problems with this game are like, "Oh yeah, I don't actually like Metroid Prime." I convinced myself that I do because everyone really likes it, and I've heard it's good. But every time I play it, I again have the thing in my brain where I need to complete stuff, and scanning stuff in the opening of Metroid Prime 4 slows it to a crawl.
You're not wrong.
And Dan, you were saying something about this. Yeah.
The fact that there are 3 fucking missable scans in the prologue that you cannot get, and they do not even tell you how to scan until it's too late to do it, is like, it's inexcusable. The fact that, like, it is just so outrageous. Like, okay, because one of the it's not a spoiler. So there's 3 scans you miss, and they're also the only 3 scans that you can add to your logbook. And you wouldn't think about it because you're like, okay, this is Metroid Prime 4, so this is a Metroid Prime game. And the 3 are just a normal soldier, a normal space pirate, and one of the bosses. But you know what? To be fair, if you don't scan the boss, that's kind of on you. Like,
Yeah, you can't go.
soldier, like a normal intergalactic Federation soldier, and you cannot scan another space pirate for the entirety of the rest of the game is insane. It is insane that you can get locked out of 100% within the first 2 minutes of gameplay.
Yeah, it's like a thing that wouldn't fly. Like, I think for a lot of people, like a lot of developers wouldn't let that happen.
Well, that's
frankly.
what I'm saying. Like, some games I split as like, okay, this one is worth 100%ing, and some games, basically, if it requires me starting over, it's not worth 100%ing. I just want to be able to walk back there.
Luckily, like, I just got to the first area. When I did, I'm like, I should really check for missable scans. And then I did, and I'm like, oh. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm not that far. I'll just restart. And
Right.
I thought I missed another one in the first area. I'm like, motherfucker, none of these guides told me this was missable. But luckily, it's not missable. It's more limited. So if you don't scan one of them, you cannot go back to scan more of them. So in Vault Forge, there was another one, and I did scan that, so it's not a big deal. And I will say Vault Forge is very fun. I think Vault Forge is a very fun area. But we'll see what happens next. Like, I just finished Vault Forge. I just got Viola. And that's as far as I've gotten so far. We'll see how I feel going forward.
I think I got a little bit past that. I don't actually remember where I left off, but I felt like I was doing the same puzzles over and over again. I've heard it's not like that long. I might be able to go back. But I hope now
It's
that they
not a long game. I heard it's like 10 to 20 hours, like
yeah.
which is kind of short for Metroid Prime, right?
Mm-hmm. Especially like again
That's,
considering.
I feel like that's kind of what you usually get.
Mm-hmm.
I
But
guess.
that's
These
the
from the two
argument
ones I've played.
of in comparison to the weight that people always think like more is better. Like I forget what was it Kingdom Hearts 2 where it was or maybe like some Metal Gear game or probably like Final Fantasy where they're like this game has over 200 hours of gameplay or like 20 hours or something like that. And it was because just it had so many cutscenes because they sort of had to chart it out that
I thought it was Metal Gear 5.
maybe but it's something where the argument is like, oh, if there's, if I'm paying this much and I waited this long, I want the game to be really long. But I don't really like the long RPGs that are a time sink and an investment. I kind of like engaging with games like a movie or book or show that I can just wrap it up. Like I can do the stuff in it and then I can sort of not wash my hands of it, but then move on to the next thing. Maybe that just comes with being an adult, having disposable income and buying games. Whereas as a kid, I think the way I developed my love for 100%ing things is that I had like 5 games. And then I was like, well, I'm going to play the game I own and get everything in it because what else am I going to do? But also I was very bad at all of the games I had as a kid, so it took me a while to beat them anyway. But I hope now that they have the infrastructure that this isn't like, oh, we're going to have to another decade wait. And I'm not even a fan of Metroid Prime. But
I always prefer 2D Metroid.
I do too, yeah. Maybe that'll be a prediction, who knows? Well, we are going to get into the future of Nintendo in 2026. I can show you guys right now that it is relatively unchanged from what we talked about last time. This is what we currently know. These are the game titles that we have. I guess the only games with titles that we have sort of release dates. This is what we know for Nintendo 2026 so far. We know that Mario Tennis Fever comes out February 12th. That's relatively soon. That's in maybe like 3 weeks. It'll be the next major Nintendo release. And then we have Pokemon Pokopia. I keep saying Pokepokia, like Chromacopia, on March 5th. And then we have these 3 games in just the nebulous spring, which is Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, Tomodachi Life Living the Dream, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder Nintendo Switch 2 Edition subtitle. These 4 are Switch 2 games. Tomodachi Life is just a regular Switch game. And then we have games that we know are coming out in 2026, but we don't have a season or a date. We have the Dusk Bloods, which was announced in, I believe, the first Nintendo Switch 2 Direct. And then Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, which is not Kid Icarus, that was the September Direct, right?
Yes, that was September.
I believe so. And then ever since the beginning where we saw Rhythm Heaven, or sorry, oh, that says Rhythm Paradise. I think I got is this the European logo? Anyway, Rhythm Heaven Groove, which we know is coming out in 2026. They said 2026, but we haven't heard anything since. And there was
shocked that we haven't seen a single thing of that outside of its like initial trailer. Like I don't want to like sound like a jerk, but like
where is it?
What is the mechanics behind Rhythm Heaven Groove that are making it like impossible to show more of the game?
Yeah, I don't want to get ahead of it because there was if you guys remember, there was a drought when it came to like Metroid Prime 4, and towards the tail end before we got the release date in the September Direct, I was like, yeah, that game's delayed for sure. Like we haven't heard anything for 7 months or something. And I don't want to jump the gun. I'm going to assume that Rhythm Heaven Groove will be coming out in 2026. These other games over here we got announced last year. Pokemon Champions, which is also a mobile game, and Splatoon Raiders, which was just announced randomly on the Nintendo Today app. I am going to assume that these are still coming out in 2026. It'd be weird if they announced them last year and they didn't come out in 2026. But before we have more to say about Mario Tennis Fever, and we can get into that after this. But do you guys have any predictions, maybe outside of the regular 26 predictions, where you think these games are going to go throughout the calendar of next year?
I think Yoshi seems like a probably like April, May time.
Because of the eggs.
Yeah, I think Mario is probably going to be March, April, and Tomodachi Life is probably gonna be like March, April.
Okay. You just reminded me. I forgot because we were talking about spring. That part of the Switch 2 edition of Animal Crossing is in all of the trailers they show, the beaches, the sunny vacation, but they released the Switch 2 edition in January, so there's still snow in the game. Like, as you're doing all this, there's just snow on the ground
Oh,
and
yeah.
snowmen going around.
That's very funny.
I don't know if they like accounted for that or why they did it like that, but yeah. I think this I just want to assume it'll be like we'll have a thing each month. So yeah, Yoshi April makes sense. But also I feel like they do often release games alongside Pokemon because they don't consider it internal. So maybe it could be March, and then Wonder for Switch 2 is like April. Tomodachi Life feels like a May thing, like right before the year anniversary. But even that's like a Switch 1 game. But also, do you guys assume we're going to get a Direct in February? I'm kind of defaulting back to the normal schedule.
Yes.
I assume, maybe not February. I assume sometime we're going to have a Direct before April.
Yeah, at the very
we're gonna
least,
want
there's
it
going to be a
February.
Pokemon Presents, because there is every year.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably what we're going to hear about Gen 10. And they're probably going to tell us when Champions comes out then. And I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out like before June.
I would hope. Yeah, I don't want it to come out like alongside Gen 10, because that would... It just, like, as a whole, it just exists for battling, I think. And I hope... I know that they didn't say anything about it or sort of confirm that it wouldn't be there. I hope there is some sort of single-player content in there. But I imagine if it's a mobile game, there probably won't be. If this is the modern equivalent of Coliseum or even something like Stadium, that at least Stadium had battles you can go through with your teams. And for me, I really don't see the appeal of a game like Champions if I could just play the Switch games anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just going to be for competitive battling because it's just going to be, I think, a more flexible way of facilitating it. Which actually kind of, I think, sort of empowers the theory some people have that sooner rather than later, we're going to have I think Gen 10 might really shake up competitive Pokemon as we know it, which I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with that, like, potentially... Champions might be a relic of an old kind of style of Pokemon battling that they're kind of moving away from. I think some people have theorized that, and that doesn't seem like out of the realm of possibility to me.
Because ZA is so different. It's like an entirely different mechanic altogether. And I'm giving myself a worse life and shooting myself in the foot that I always get, and you guys could attest that, like, for ZA I wasn't that excited, as opposed to like a new generation, because my favorite part is catching all the new Pokemon, that I probably will be more excited for a new generation. However, having played most of them now, if not like every Pokemon game, but just like from the Switch era in general, now that the Switch era of Pokemon is over, like the Legends games are always the best ones. For me at least, like mechanically they're always the most fun. From the ground up, I think they're the best games. So the fact that I'm like, whatever, it's Legends, I can't wait for that new generation. I don't want to prey on its downfall, but I assume that the new generation will be worse than ZA, unless it takes heavy inspiration from it. Because Gen 9 not being modeled after Arceus is probably just because they didn't know how it was going to do or how it was going to be received. So they wanted to dip their toes in really quick. Honestly, for me, like, because these games were shown to us so early, I mean, that's why we only know about these games. And assuming that there will be a February Direct that'll show off new games, like, throughout spring onward, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe aside from... No, I'll lock in all of them. I wouldn't be surprised if, aside from Rhythm Heaven Groove, if all of these games came out before the summer. Maybe not Fire Emblem. Maybe that'll be shown more at, like, their equivalent of E3.
I think Fire Emblem's going to be a summer game.
Yeah.
Fire Emblem mostly come out in summer.
But I do think that most of these will be earlier in the year. I've been trying to gear up for Duskbloods by planning to play more From Software games, but I think it's like a massive multiplayer game, and I don't know how I feel about that, because those often have a very short shelf life for me. Like, if my goal is to attempt a game for the first time, like I was the Monster Hunter, then the fact that it desired to continue. But as we're looking at this is what we know right now. So we know that the soonest released will be Mario Tennis Fever. And I have made my opinions very clear about these. Oh, okay, that's for the... Right, no, they showed this to us for the 40th. So I guess this is a 40th anniversary game, even if it's coming out this year.
Oh, yes, this was for the 40th, but this specific trailer they just released
Do I have this sped up? Or I do have this sped up. I was wondering why I was going that fast. I'll say it looks fine. It's a Nintendo game. It's a fun Camelot Nintendo game. They're adding a lot more mechanics in comparison to Aces, but every new Mario Tennis or Mario Golf game, because Aces and Super Rush were built on top of the Wii U games, and they were a lot better. But it feels like we keep saying, and maybe it's just me, like, oh, this'll, they're going to keep building on the previous game, and eventually it'll be really good. Every time I delude myself into thinking, like, oh, no, this game, like, I'm going to love this game. And sure, it'll be fun, and I'll have my fun with it, it'll be fine. But I think for the most part, and I talked about this in the Adult Swim video games video when talking about the Aqua Teen golf game, that at the end of the day, it's still tennis and golf. Like, there's really only so much you can do from a video game standpoint substantially to make it fun. You could add all these mechanics, all these bells and whistles, but I don't know. Are you guys excited for Mario Tennis Fever?
Not particularly. It's not for me.
So
I think.
will
I think that's a big part of it.
I will say, I think
Yes.
the second trailer has eased up some doubts.
Okay.
I think, like, it's clear that they saw what people did not like from Aces, and they're learning, and they're trying to make it better. I guess I'll say one of my predictions now, just because it is directly related to Mario Tennis Aces,
Oh, okay.
and that is that not Mario Tennis Aces, Fever. My prediction is Mario Tennis Fever will be a good game held back by one thing that really makes it an annoyance.
Ooh.
Because that has been the case for the past, like, other than soccer, because soccer as a whole, like, Strikers, that whole game was just, I don't know what the hell they were doing with Strikers. That game was not good. But for Aces and for Super Rush Golf, like, it was not, there was one thing with both of them.
Yeah.
And I think Rush had the story, which was, like, literally, it started right when it ended. And also just, like, the gameplay of running to golf is not as fun as it originally came out to be. And then
Right.
Aces was just, like, a bare bones game. Like, there was nothing there.
Well, there were, like
the story.
it felt like diminishing returns because when Aces first came out, I think it was maybe like a 25, maybe like 20 character roster. And then they would just add free updates slowly over time and eventually got up to 30. And now this game has all the same characters of the previous. I guess I can get into this as well real quick because I made this little mock-up for this. All the new characters are at the bottom. They are the baby characters, Baby Mario, Baby Luigi,
Well, wait,
Baby
new
Peach.
in what regard?
New to this game.